and welcome back to my third video. Just want to let everybody know that for those of you who can't get around to seeing this video on a computer or laptop, it's also playing in IMAX. Today's feature is about mobile forensic investigations. You're probably wondering how I came up with this exciting topic, and it's really quite simple. Professor Hayes said I pretty much had to do it. Okay, so remember, it's important to keep in mind that starvation and desperation are in fact very good motivation. So let's begin with a little background about mobile forensic investigators and also the investigations that these people do. Let's cue the slideshow. What is mobile forensics? Mobile forensics is a branch of digital forensics relating to the recovery of digital evidence or data from a mobile device under forensically sound conditions. In short, it's a type of electronic data gathering for legal evidence purposes. That brings us to our next slide. What are mobile forensic investigators? Today's mobile forensic investigators represent law enforcement's most dynamic officers. With cybercrime growing exponentially, today's officers have to be able to respond quickly but adapt to changing conditions and even quicker to the devices and systems and tools that they have to use. Mobile investigators investigate such crimes as money laundering, terrorism, unauthorized disclosure of information, theft of trade secrets, internet abuse, sexual harassment, evidence collection, murder, assault, robbery, arson, kidnapping, drugs, child abuse, fraud. Almost any case that you read about or hear about in today's news has some ties back to mobile investigation and the forensics team. So what's involved in being a mobile forensics investigator? Well, mobile forensics investigation is a specialty, much the same way that a cardiologist is in the medical field. You're going to have to go through local licensing, obviously higher education, college. Not to mention you're going to have an ever-expanding list of certifications that you're going to have to go through, especially as the technology increases, devices increase. The training is almost endless. Today's mobile forensic technicians face many challenges. First of all, you have the challenge of technology. There are literally hundreds of different forensic tools available. You have thousands of different media devices, cell phones, you have different operating systems, and even within the same operating system, different versions. This creates a ton of work. The mobile forensic investigator has to know which tool to use, when to apply it, and then what to do with that information, all without compromising any of the data on the device that's under investigation. I guess that leaves us with one final question. Why would anybody want to be a mobile forensic investigator? There are tons of reasons. I guess the most important ones come down to pride in your work and a job well done, the respect that you will get amongst your peers, especially after cracking a hard case and retrieving data that no one else was able to get involved with. And finally, last but not least, the money. Starting an advanced investigator, I looked at a couple of sites, just keeping my options open. $92,000, I saw $115,000. Obviously, the mobile investigators, at least the good ones, are well paid. And this is a field that's only going to get bigger. And as the devices come online more and more, it gets more complex. These people can be more and more in demand. Hello and welcome back to the second part of our mobile forensics investigation discovery. In this section, we're going to briefly discuss the differences between logical and physical extractions. Wait a minute, where are you going? This is important, if for no other reason than next time you watch a show, Mobile Investigation Discovery, you'll have some insight as to what the people are actually doing with the devices rather than just sitting there. And in the end, you'll look a lot smarter next time you have a conversation with somebody. You can actually look like you know what you're talking about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the slides. Before beginning any type of discussion concerning extractions, we must first give meaning to the topic we're going to be discussing. The extractions we will be discussing, no, they have nothing to do with dentistry or any military co-op extractions. That's not what we're talking about here. The extractions we'll be discussing today deal with the acquisition of information from a mobile media device, such as a smartphone, laptop, iPad. Once it has been determined that a mobile forensic investigator is needed, he or she must make several immediate but critical decisions. First, they must determine if the device can be safely moved from one location to another without disturbing the information. You have to also determine whether the mobile investigator is going to leave the device powered on or powered down to preserve its current settings. Is the device connected to a network? Is the device sending information to remote storage sites? But perhaps one of the most crucial decisions that the forensic investigator must face is the decision on which type of extraction to perform on the mobile device and what forensic tool to use to accomplish this task. Although there are several methods of acquiring data from mobile devices, chip-off, SD cards, SIM card, JTAG devices, we will be limiting our discussion today to just two main types of mobile forensic extractions. That's logical extractions and physical extractions. Logical extractions take a bit-for-bit copy of specific files and directories which are found on the mobile device's hard drive. And because the logical extraction is only looking for specific files or specific information, generally this type of extraction is a lot faster than trying to search through the entire mobile device. There are several reasons why you would want to use a logical extraction over physical extraction. For example, if you couldn't shut the mobile device or system down, if it was connected to a server or something offshore where there was a link to the device and as it was running, if there was too much data, say you had a file or a hard drive that was too big to theoretically copy all of the information, or if you don't need all of the data, say you just wanted to find a specific text message or a specific point, you would use the logical extraction. Logical extractions begin by connecting the mobile device under investigation to an interface connector, computer or other testing device. The interface connection or connector is usually known as the API or Application Program Interface. Most commonly used in these types of extractions is typically a cable provided by the manufacturer. One immediate benefit of the logical extraction is its ability to be understood by the technologically challenged, like myself. The results are posted sometimes not in difficult code, but in easy to understand, readable format, which, trust me, you definitely want to have your information brought to you that way, as opposed to the codes which you then have to go back and research and decode, which adds more time. And keep in mind, with any investigation, the key element here is the time factor. Logical extractions do have a downside, however, and that is that they are limited to specific searches or for specific files or programs that the mobile device vendor has previously determined. Okay, if you take, for instance, a smartphone that features a video application, the application's data would normally, if you were doing an investigation on it, be found in the video section. But what happens if all of a sudden you download one of the 500,000 third-party applications, download that application onto the phone, and then place your video somewhere in there under something other than what you would call video? Now, when you do the investigation logically for the extraction, you may not always be able to pick up or even find that video information because, quite honestly, the extraction doesn't know where to look for it or even what the program is that it's looking in. The investigator has no clue what some of these programs are, so oftentimes information can be missed when you're using third-party applications in a logical extraction. Another shortcoming that happens with logical extractions is a lot of times files are deleted. Deleted files and records oftentimes, I didn't say always, I said oftentimes, are not able to be recovered when you do a logical extraction. So you have to always be aware that the information that you do get from the logical extraction may not be all of the information that is contained on that mobile device. If an investigator determines that a logical extraction is to be performed, he or she is immediately faced with another situation that comes to mind. Is he supposed to do an incremental extraction, or is he going to do a full extraction? The full extraction, as its name implies, extracts all of the data currently available on the mobile device. The second type of logical acquisition, the incremental extraction, which is also logical, is primarily used to retrieve only the data that has changed since the initial full extraction. So there may not be a need to, let's just say it was a video file and maybe only one more video was added or moved or edited. You don't want to do the entire extraction again, just the part that's changed since the last time that you did the extraction. That's where the incremental extraction would come into place. Logical extractions reveal several things immediately to the investigator. First, you can retrieve SMS, which are your text messages, contacts, call logs, media, and other app data. If you notice, most of these all have to deal with files and data, not so much programs, just the basic data and files that would be contained within your smartphone or mobile device. The second type of extraction we're going to be talking about today is the physical extraction. Physical extractions provide a much more complete and detail-oriented extraction when compared to the logical extraction. The physical extraction examines a mobile device's memory bit by bit. That's it. That means the entire phone is examined from start to finish. This painstakingly thorough method of extraction and analysis, however, is the reason for the lengthiness that is associated with the physical extraction. And as you might have already guessed, that length and time and detail-oriented, obviously if there's a cost factor involved, physical extractions, because of their details and the nature of the information that has to be examined, generally cost more. What cannot be ignored, however, is the physical extraction's main strength, and that is the ability to retrieve information unavailable through the logical extraction. With the physical extraction, you're able to retrieve deleted files, programs that would be missed using the logical extraction methods, and other files which may be encrypted. Once the mobile investigator has determined that a physical extraction is going to take place, after he's finished setting everything up, he usually begins the physical extraction by inserting a very small code known as a bootloader. This code is inserted into a random access memory during the mobile device's startup. The bootloader, however, is a dual-edged sword and should be chosen very carefully. As there are many different bootloaders, you've got to make sure you get the right one. You can use the wrong bootloader on the wrong device, and as you might expect, you pretty much have rendered the whole investigation useless. On the slim chance that the bootloader is unsuccessful or can't be done, the investigators have one final trick up their sleeve, and that's a process known as rooting. The process of rooting involves a temporary uploading of a client device to extract information. After the information is extracted, the client is then uninstalled and the information is secure. So if we're trying to summarize everything that we've basically been discussing here, we know that the physical extraction will give us everything that the logical extraction has, which is our text messages, contacts, call logs, media, and application data. But it also gives us the information of files, hidden files, even deleted data, both in the allocated and unallocated spots of the drive. So in other words, if it's on the phone, it's going to be searched, it can be retrieved. Again, so now we have to decide which type of extraction are we going to perform. And although this seems like a no-brainer because the physical extraction will always give us most of the device, we have to throw in time. Is this case time sensitive? Does it involve a kidnapping? Does it involve something that we need to get right away to get into the courtroom? to present as evidence. So when we're looking at time factors, cost factors, or looking for a specific file that we can obtain easily, logical would be the way to go. If time constraints are not a factor, then the investigator will probably want to use the physical extraction, as he will be able to retrieve all of the information, even that which the subscriber has tried to hide, delete, or move to a file under a different code. Our third and final part of this video for the day deals with Santoku. That's Japanese. It is not a knife, not for what we're talking about today. Santoku will be referring to a software suite which, as the same as the knife does, slices, dices, and minces. But today we're talking about a program that's actually a software platform suite of tools used for forensic analysis and investigations. This is unique in the fact that Via Forensics, the manufacturer of Santoku, has tried to assemble a group of all the programs an investigator could want in one location, so all you have to do is access whatever tools you need to help your investigation along. So instead of boring you with how to use Santoku, and trust me, there are a ton of videos on it, not to mention I have parts of my team already doing this portion of the project, I'm going to briefly list some of the utilities and their functions. I didn't think it was a good idea initially, but then as I realized, I had no clue what most of these things were, so I'm going to take the mystery out of some of the most common ones, and I will explain what they are. Okay, let's go right to the video. The first tool in the suite that I found very interesting was the brute force encryption. As most mobile devices you find will be encrypted, I began to look at this tool and I realized it was there and designed to help the investigator retrieve passwords from locked mobile devices. This method of retrieving passwords systematically tries every password combination until a match is found. However, as the drive for tighter security grows and you keep changing the codes and requirements for it, I'm seeing that many more of the new devices that are just hitting the market are almost impossible to penetrate using this method. However, there's still millions of the older telephones out there and cellular devices that can be cracked using this method. I next found myself looking at an application called Fastboot. As I didn't really understand what it was, I decided to look it up and discovered that it is a protocol used to reflash or update partitions in Android devices. While in Fastboot mode, the user can modify a file system or an Android mobile device by way of USB cable and also being connected to a computer. So in other words, rather than trying to reformat it or whatever, the Fastboot will let you just instantly reflash it by way of a cable that's connected to your mobile device and the computer. One application that goes hand in hand almost with Fastboot is Heimdall. This is a program used to flash firmware, which is actually equipment software to upgrade your hardware, onto a Samsung Galaxy S. Now this is unique and it tells you for one of the few programs how exactly you can update the firmware of different mobile media devices. Burp Suite is an application that performs security testing of web applications. Everything in the application from start to finish is tested to see if there are any security breaches or any extra malware that could be present in the program. I find this especially interesting when you consider that most of the apps that you have are third-party apps. This suite will allow, once the program is run, to find out if there is anything vicious within a program that could be harmful to the system. Another one of the more unique applications found is EtherCap. This is a suite of programs designed to eliminate man-in-the-middle attacks. Now, a man-in-the-middle attack begins with an outsider eavesdropping on a subscriber's mobile connection. The subscriber's connection is then hijacked to the eavesdropper's connection. Now, while this is going on, the subscriber is completely unaware that all of his information is actually being routed to the eavesdropper and then routed away as if nothing has happened. So the subscriber never really knows this is happening, but all the while, the eavesdropper has the ability to insert information. He has the ability to gather information from his target host. One final application that I'd like to discuss is Scalpel. It's an open source program that's also found in the suite with Santoku that investigators use to recover files and programs. And just as the name implies, Scalpel cuts right through excess applications and targets just the files that the investigator has asked for. But the unique feature is that it does it with lightning speed, a lot faster than its predecessors. As you can tell, there are literally hundreds of different applications which will be used within a mobile investigation. This is just a small sampling of some of them that were found within the Santoku suite of applications. Different programs will have different applications, and of course they will always be updated. Again, we just wanted to give you a small gathering, so let's go over what we did before. We started off, we told you briefly about the Mobile Forensic Investigator. We told you about the two types of extractions, physical and logical. And we wound it up with a dynamic investigative tool called Santoku, which allows you to go on and do your extractions with a suite of tools. Like I said, there's a lot more of these tools. I just gave you a small sampling of them. I'd like to say thanks to all of my co-team members who helped me, especially William and Saruf, who I know I've had contact with, and my other team members. We just decided early on to try and keep this to a minimum amount of people so that too much information would get passed around. But I want to thank you all for helping me in this project and for furnishing me with some of this research information.